Today we're going to review negative exponents. What I want to do first is talk about what negative exponents don't do, because this is a very common mistake. A negative exponent does not take a number and turn it negative. So if you have a positive number with a negative exponent, your answer should stay positive. Or if you have a negative number with a negative exponent, your answer should stay negative. So what a negative exponent actually does is it takes that number and it turns it into its reciprocal. So let's start off with just -1, because that's really the easiest negative exponent to work with. If you have a -1 for your exponent, then it just takes whatever that number is, it turns it to its reciprocal, and you just stop there. That's the answer. So here's a couple examples. Let's say we have 2/7 or 2/7 to the -1 power. If I wanted to evaluate that, I'd say, okay, well, if I have a -1 exponent, it's just going to turn it into its reciprocal. Now, if you have a fraction like 2/7 and you want its reciprocal, you just take those two numbers and you flip them. So the answer to this question would just be 7/2. Now let's say we have a whole number, like 5, and we raise that to the -1. Now you can't take a whole number and flip it because it's only one number. So what you want to remember is that when you have a whole number like 5, it's the same as having 5/1. And if you flip 5/1, you get 1/5. So that's the answer to the question. If you have 5 to the -1 power, the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. All right, so let's look at other negative exponents. Anything other than -1, like -2 or -10 or something like that. Now what it's going to do, that's going to do two things. Number one, it's the same thing we just did. It's going to take that base, or that number that we're raising to the power, and it's going to flip it. It's going to make it its reciprocal. But then, after you do that, it takes that negative number exponent, turns it positive, and you apply that. Now, you can do those two steps in either order. You can raise to the power first and flip reciprocal second, or you can do it how we wrote it here, and you can flip first and raise to the power second. So let's say we had 5 to the -6 power. One way to do it would be to flip first, to say the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5, and now I'm going to raise that to the +6 power. Now when I raise that to the +6 power, if you have a fraction and you raise it to a power, what you can do is raise the top and bottom separately. So I have 1 to the 6th over 5 to the 6th. Now 1 to any power is 1, because 1 to the 6th means 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. Multiply 1 as many times as you want, the answer is still going to be 1. Now 5 to the 6th is a very big number. We can't do that one without a calculator, so I'm actually just going to leave it in my answer. 1/5 to the 6th power. Okay, let's do 2/7 to the -2 power. So what I'm going to do, same thing. I'm going to start by flipping it. Let's make that a 7/2. And then that -2 exponent becomes a +2. So what I end up with, 7 squared over 2 squared. Now these ones, because we're only squaring instead of raising to the 6th power, we can do. 7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49. And 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. So that's what I would put for my answer, 49/4. Now the last thing I want to talk to you guys about today is, what if the exponent is 0? We know what to do with a positive exponent. We just reviewed what to do with a negative exponent. What about a 0? Well, we have a very special rule for a 0 exponent. This is that rule here. Any number at all to the 0 power always equals 1. Anything. It doesn't matter if the number is a big number like a million, a small number, a positive number, a negative number, a whole number, a fraction. Any number at all to the 0 power equals 1. Now that's a very easy question as long as you remember the rule. So for example, let's say I said, what is 5 to the 0? Very, very easy question. The answer is 1, because anything with a 0 is 1. Or let's say, what is 2/7 of the 0 power? 1. The answer is 1. So for our examples today, I use the same two numbers. I use 5 and I use 2/7 to show you a whole number example and a fraction example. But remember, these examples work for any number. So this is how you use either negative exponents or 0 for an exponent.